Joyful blessings. This is Kaylin Castell, and so excited to share with you the magic and mystery of Regulus, the heart of the lion, when it's traveling with the sun. And we'll be looking at a few other things about Regulus too, but one of the things to know is that Regulus is currently located at 0 degrees Virgo and 7 minutes. We're going to look at why that is in just a moment. So it's interestingly to note that Regulus is in the beams of the sun from the end of July to early September every year. Also exact with the sun around August 22nd or 23rd, depending on your time zone. It can shift a little bit each year. Sometimes it's on the 22nd, sometimes it's on the 23rd. Some time zones, I think it's always on the 23rd. Anyway, Regulus, again, is disappearing from the sun or from the evening sky. Actually, it gets so close to the sun by the end of July that it's no longer visible to the naked eye. And then it reappears in the morning sky before dawn in early September. And that varies depending on your latitude and where you are, and also how things are looking in the sky for you. But again, this exact conjunction with the sun, and you can see here Regulus and the sun very close together. Interestingly, because Regulus is only about a half a degree from the ecliptic, so there are times when it gets occulted by the moon and other planets, never by the sun, but the sun and Regulus are seen really close together if you have a telescope to see them. Now, of course, the best time to see Regulus is in the spring, though you can see it well starting in September. As each month progresses, it becomes more and more visible in the morning sky and then eventually moves to the evening sky. So a few things to know about Regulus is it is one of the 4 royal stars of the ancients, and it is also one of the 15 magical stars of the ancient alchemists, known as the Bohemian stars. And they were looking at the stars, particularly certain stars, and Regulus is definitely one of them. When there were planets that were near the heart star of Regulus, it meant that its magical energy was being magnified, and it would assist in expanding intentions, magical symbols, talismans, amulets, potions, elixirs, and ideally that this would be aligned with your heart, knowing that whatever the intention, whatever the magic is that was being created, would be created from the space of the heart, from the compassion of the heart, from the wisdom of the heart. And you can see here, this is the sigil or the signature of Regulus, and that was often used in the magic that was done. And this is something we cover in depth in the Bohemian star, the magical Bohemian star class from My Star Alchemy. And there is a live class. There'll be ongoing live classes with this. So you can always go to mystaralchemy.com to find out more. And we'd love to have you join us if you're interested in star magic and how to work the energy of the stars. And we're going to see a big reason why we might want to do this in a moment. So something to realize is that Regulus moved from the seasonal sign of Leo to the seasonal sign of Virgo in 2011. It was towards the end of November 2011. And the famous astrologer Dane Rajar had calculated this to happen in 2012. But of course, now with our computers and so on, he was a well-known astrologer back in the 60s and 70s, maybe even further back than that. And he viewed this time as the beginning of a new age, or the turning of the wheel of time, as a new time, a new age that was coming upon us. And so by the movement, but okay, let me just back up and say that Regulus was in the sign, the seasonal sign of Leo, for 2,160 years. And that's because it moves 1 degree every 72 years. And it'll be in the seasonal sign of Virgo for 2,160 years. So this takes quite a while for the seasonal signs to move through the constellations. So if we think about the seasonal sign of Leo, that happens right after the June, about 30 days after the June solstice, we have the seasonal sign of Leo. And then we have Virgo, the seasonal sign, happening about 30 days before the September equinox. So again, the signs are seasonal and the constellations are the star patterns that the signs move through. And there's a lot of confusion because they got named the same things, but there's a movement of the seasonal signs through the constellations over time. And that's why our understanding shifts and evolves over time. It's really symbolizing this movement of the sign of Leo over Regulus to the sign of Virgo over Regulus is symbolizing the movement of humanity's evolutionary path from being focused on the masculine, Leo being a masculine sign, and the ascent path of evolution that separated itself from matter, to now again include the feminine descent path or involution that cultivates inclusive connection and liberation, honoring the sacred wisdom of the heart and how we embody that wisdom. So it's time for us to make another leap and humble ourselves again to aligning with the insights, gifts, technologies that have been gained from the era of separation, to now include being in service to Gaia or to the earth or to whatever you want to call the planet we live on, while mending the broken connection between the masculine and feminine that's necessary to again experience a golden age of peace and plenty. Now, interestingly, here's the symbol, here's Horus, the masculine god, and Sekhmet, the feminine expression of Leo. And one of the things I love about the lion is she can be a lioness, and we'll see maybe what that means in a moment. Now, Regulus was, has been referred to as the regulator or the ruler or the lawgiver. And we can imagine this is probably more of a patriarchal perspective, a masculine perspective, because if we look at the heart of the lion, it could be the heart of the lioness. So patriarchy, of course, viewed the lion constellation as masculine, but Sekhmet was very big in Egypt, and she was a primary lioness goddess that was her job was to restore justice. And I love this. Here's me with Sekhmet and her temple in Karnak in October of 1999 with my hand on her heart. And at that time, I wasn't even considering that Regulus might be a star that would represent her heart. So it was kind of like maybe a sense of tuning into something that an understanding that was going to come down the road. Anyway, so Regulus is from the Latin word rex, and it means king. The Hindus saw Regulus as the mighty or the great one, and the Persians said it was the central one or the star of the center. So we can see that different cultures saw this star as super important. Now, if we think of the lioness, the heart of the lioness, the leonine heart, the sovereign queen, she is the sovereign queen of dynamic self-love, self-reliance, self-approval, self-determination, self-confidence, self-acceptance, self-sufficiency, self-respect. And the sun is closest to or within the range that the ancient alchemists used to work their magic with this star every year from August 16th to the 29th. And again, the exact time being August 22nd or 23rd in our current era. So working the magic of this Bohemian star, this would be every year you have the opportunity to do it. So if there's a full moon, a new moon around between August 16th to the 29th, that would actually even add greater power to this particular time. So one of the things I find really fun about this is we can have an intention about restoring the sacred relationship with all life, guided by the wisdom of the heart. And if we think about Sekhmet, her mission was restoring justice. And of course, that was through her lion's heart. And this ancient prophecy from the Ageless wisdom teachings, and there's a link here, and I'll put this in the show notes, to the Ageless wisdom teachings, and where I first came across it from Sold Out website. It's Sold Out. So these links will be, if people want to check them out, will be in the show notes. And this prophecy just sings to my heart. So even if it's not something that is quote unquote a true prophecy, whatever that might be, we make it true by putting our attention on it. So here's the prophecy. A certain relationship or configuration of stars, including Regulus, in the constellation of the Lion, will bring about a situation wherein the reorientation of the attitude of the legal profession will take place. Its functions and duties will be centralized for the purpose of world usefulness. And in this process, legislation for children will assume great importance and be the motivating power. The legal step will be primarily advocated by Russia and endorsed by the United States of America. Before 2035 AD, such legislation will be universal in its sphere of influence and control. And so here we see the child with the heart of the lion putting her head on the heart of the lioness. And here we see a lioness who's adopted a baby antelope whose mother had been killed. And so we can see in nature, some of this is already starting to happen. And perhaps this has been drawn to our attention based on the situation where children are being sold into slavery still to this day, taken from their parents at the U.S. border, or they lack food and medicine and education and the things that they need to live a thriving life. And so hopefully this inspires us to fulfill this prophecy by focusing our attention and calling it forth, especially when the sun is with Regulus and working that star magic to help bring this about. So I'm hoping that everyone is feeling inspired by this opportunity that we have, especially when the sun is with Regulus or the Regulus is with the sun. And again, if you want to find out more about the stars, you can go to mystaralchemy.com. Venus is with Regulus every year. You can go to venusalchemy.com. If you want to know about other planets and when they're with the sun, with Regulus, you can go to celestialtimings.com. And again, all of this information has been sourced originally from the Shamanic Astrology Mystery School. So here is to how the heart energy is helping to guide us in creating a new world that is bringing peace and plenty to everyone.